9 spine-chilling sleepover horror tales. Discover the sinister secrets of cursed nights exposed. The night was thick with the feeling of unspoken fears as Emily, Maya, Jason, and Tyler giggled in the living room, pizza boxes scattered like remnants of their carefree summer. They had gathered for a sleepover, but the air buzzed with an undeniable tension. Outside, shadows danced beneath the flickering streetlights, and the suburban neighborhood, with its neat lawns and calm, hid something darker. Something sinister. Emily's voice broke through their laughter as she suggested digging through the attic for a missing board game. She barely contained her anxiety, a pulse of thrill coursing through her. What secrets lay dust-covered in the inky blackness of the attic? She made her way upstairs, the wooden steps creaking ominously beneath her feet. When she stumbled upon that old, cobweb-covered book, a chill gripped her. Cursed Tales of Willow Creek. It read, the title crawling with dread. She hesitated, her heart racing, but curiosity prevailed. Taking a deep breath, she brought the book downstairs, unwittingly drawing her friends into an unfolding horror. As she read aloud with a trembling voice, the air in the room grew heavier. Each tale pulled them deeper into the fabric of their seemingly safe neighborhood: the retired cop who vanished, the old lady with secrets, and the eerie family hidden away from the sun. The room thickened with an unsettling energy, a shiver creeping up their spines. "I swear, my phone just died!" Jason exclaimed, panic rising in his tone. Moments later, a gust of cold air swept through, ruffling their hair and bringing a collective gasp from the group. They exchanged anxious glances. This wasn't just a sleepover anymore. Shadows flickered somewhere just beyond their line of sight, deepening their unease. "Let us check it out, please," Maya implored, her excitement betraying her apprehension. Tyler fidgeted, his eyes darting to the clock, reminding them morning would come. But could they survive the night? The tension coiled tighter, hearts racing, as a loud bang from the kitchen shattered the stillness. They huddled, whispers painting scenarios in the dim light, until they made an unspoken pact. They had to explore. They gripped one another's hands, breathing in sync. Every creak in the floorboards sounded like a warning. With each step toward the kitchen, silence wrapped around them, thick and suffocating. Peering in, they froze, jaws slack with terror. Strange markings on the walls glowed faintly, pulsating like the heartbeats quaking within their chests. Their own faces reflected in the marks, twisted with fear, confirming their nightmare. It was real. They were part of something far darker than tales spun in jest. The secrets of Willow Creek were alive, reaching into their very souls. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the last syllable of Emily's words faded, the lights above flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness. A disembodied voice echoed through the smothering silence, calling their names, one by one. Confusion turned to sheer terror as they realized they were not alone. The newly learned tales had bound them. Would they escape this cursed night? Or was Willow Creek's sinister history destined to claim them, too? The darkness swallowed them whole, an impenetrable shroud that blocked out all familiar comforts. Emily's instincts kicked in. She felt the urge to react, to fight against the pulse of fear coursing through her veins. We need to turn on the lights," she stuttered. The shadows around them thickened, creeping closer, as if drawn to their terror. "Where's the flashlight?" Jason's voice wavered, barely above a whisper. The realization hit them. They had lost their connection to the outside world. Their phones were dead, and the familiar glow of light sources was gone. In the claustrophobic kitchen, only the eerie glow from the walls illuminated their growing dread. What if the stories are true? Tyler's words fell into the tense air, a question that hung menacingly between them. A swirling wind picked up, sending a shiver racing down their spines as the disembodied voice returned, so close now it seemed to echo from the very depths of the walls. Emily. Maya. Jason. Tyler. Panic twisted in their stomachs, mingling with the shadows. They could hear it breathing, an almost rhythmic exhalation that felt alive. Maya grabbed Emily's arm, her grip tight and warm against the icy fear creeping around them. Let us go back to the living room, she suggested, but even she seemed unsure. Do you think it will let us? Tyler asked, voice trembling. The word it lingered, as if admitting to an entity, a malevolence watching them. The glowing markings pulsed again, synchronized with their heartbeats. It was as if they were woven into a fabric of horror, each thump sealing their fates tighter together. With nothing but anxiety propelling them forward, the four of them stepped back, the kitchen retreating into darkness, the light behind them growing fainter. But every step became heavier. They felt the air thickening, and the weight of dread pressing against them. They always say you can feel when something is wrong. This was that feeling amplified to a deafening roar. Suddenly, behind them came a sound, a crash that echoed through the hallway. They froze, eyes darting to the sound. A shadow flickered by the kitchen entrance, just beyond the reach of their eyes. Something was there. Whether human or not remained a chilling mystery. Guys, stay close, Emily urged, her voice shaky but fierce. They shuffled closer together, a small mass of fear and defiance. As they approached the living room, a distant sound began to swell, a low, guttural hum that vibrated through the floor and into their bones. What is that? Jason exclaimed, backing away slightly, his eyes wide with terror. Maya, emboldened or perhaps driven by sheer desperation, took a shaky step toward the source of the noise. Follow me, she called out, hoping her courage would inspire the others. Tyler glanced at Emily, and she nodded, locking eyes with him as a silent pact of solidarity formed. Rounding the corner, they entered the living room, where all at once, the coldness intensified. A dark figure stood in the center of the room, too vast to make out. Its presence enveloped them, pulling their breath into a chilling silence. The house seemed to hold its own breath, as if afraid to break the spell. Emily's heart raced. This was no longer fiction. This wasn't a story they could put down. The lurid tales of Willow Creek had seeped into their reality, turning the night into an unfolding nightmare. Run! She shouted suddenly, breaking the spell, and as if the world exploded back to life, they all turned and fled into the unknown. Fear twisted at their heels, and as they darted through the house, they realized it was chasing them. Would they make it outside, or would the terrors of the night become their new reality? And what awaited them beyond the door? Panic surged as they barreled through the dimly lit corridor, the floorboards creaking beneath their weight. The dark figure loomed just beyond the threshold, a shadow that stretched and morphed, defying any sense of familiarity. Emily's heart pounded against her ribcage, the sound drowning out everything else. Every instinct screamed at her to keep running, but the pull of the shadow felt almost magnetic, as if it were drawing them back into its cold embrace. Which way? Tyler gasped, the words slicing through the darkness around them. They stumbled into the living room, scanning for an escape, but every exit seemed to vanish into an endless sea of black. Over there! Maya pointed toward the front door, its outline barely visible. They rushed towards it, but a cold gust swept through, rattling the windows, as if a malevolence had taken notice. The air shifted, sharp and charged, a menacing reminder of their fragile safety. Don't look back! Jason shouted, his voice hoarse with fear. But curiosity, that treacherous instinct, wrestled with their survival. Emily turned her head slightly, and in that fleeting moment she met the gaze of the figure. Its eyes were voids, black pools sucking in the light, and Emily felt her breath hitch. She could almost hear whispers, urgent and incoherent, melding with the guttural hum that filled the home. We're gonna die, the thought crawled into her mind, a chilling realization that sent a shiver through her spine. In that moment, the light flickered, illuminating the form for a split second, just long enough for them to see the grotesque shape of a human being twisted beyond recognition. Desperation surged through Emily. She could see the outline of the door. They were so close. Almost there! Maya yelled, her voice cracking. They reached for the handle, fingers trembling, but found it one budge. Something gripped it from the other side, something evil that wanted them to stay. Push! Emily screamed, urgency spilling over. With a collective shove, they slammed into the door, throwing their weight against it, the wood creaking as it strained. The air around them pulsed with energy, a resistance fighting against their escape. Then came the noise, a low growl, like stones grinding together, reverberating in the marrow of their bones. It spread through the walls, an inescapable vibration that echoed their fear. It would feast on their terror, savoring their defeat. Just as they thought the door might give, the shadows surged, flooding the threshold, drawing closer. Maya shrieked as something brushed against her ankle and she stumbled backward, exclaiming, "It's got me!" "No! Don't let it pull you in!" Tyler lunged for her, but without warning, the ground shifted beneath them. The shadows writhed like living things, forging chains that bound around their feet, harder than steel, slick and cold. "Keep fighting! Don't let it win!" Jason insisted, struggling against the pull of the darkness, his voice both fierce and trembling. They began to shout, words of defiance blending into frantic cries, desperate to cut through the suffocating shroud. But then, something changed. A flicker of light, pulsating from deep within the house, began to push back against the darkness, a surge of radiant energy that felt almost alive, as if the house itself wanted them to break free. It was a flicker, a heartbeat, urging them, and they could feel the hope rising. Yet before they could act, the room around them twisted, shifting like a warped funhouse mirror. A scream echoed through the air, a voice they recognized. Emily's heart sank. It was Maya. "Emily! Help me!" The darkness darkened further, tightening its hold, and the air thickened with the weight of despair. "Don't let go, don't turn back," Emily murmured, her voice barely audible above the cacophony. But as reality bent, and the shadows closed in, Emily realized they were not just fighting for escape, they were fighting for their very souls. What lay ahead was either salvation or doom. They had to make a choice, but what would it cost them? As they stood on the precipice, the pulse of terror quickened, and the question loomed, would sacrifice become their only means of survival? The shadows writhed around them, becoming denser, a tangible fog filled with dread. Emily's scream hung in the air, but it felt muted, swallowed whole by the insatiable darkness. They were so close to breaking free, yet the shadows twisted with vicious determination, pinning them down, grappling like a long-forgotten dread beneath the surface. Maya's cries turned into muffled whimpers as she was dragged backward. "Fight! Fight!" Jason yelled, but his voice was barely above a whisper, trembling under the weight of uncertainty. Emily felt the pull of the shadows as if they had palpable fingers, tugging at her limbs, drawing her inward into despair's icy grasp. "Help me! Please!" Maya's voice, raw and frantic, echoed within Emily's skull. Waves of panic swept over her. Could she choose to save her friend? Would it cost her everything? "Tyler!" Emily's voice broke. The two stood close together, locked in this battle against darkness. He looked at her, eyes wild, and she could see the same thoughts colliding in both their minds, a fierce, conflicting need to go back and save Maya versus self-preservation. "Let us go. We can't hold on forever," Tyler shouted, the resolve in his voice faltering as the shadows pulsed more menacingly around them. Suddenly, a searing light surged from the depths of the house, illuminating everything for a brief, heart-stopping second. They saw it. A figure twisted and mangled shifted through the chaos. Then, just like that, it vanished, leaving only this overwhelming sense of dread, whispering secrets that crawled on Emily's skin. "No! Stay with me!" she screamed, lunging for Maya, but Jason, rooted in fear, clutched her wrist tight enough to hurt. "Emily, look!" He pointed to the hallway where the shadows flickered. Swaying, reeling shadows morphed into a chaotic dance, an alluring spectacle yet menacing. The light pulsed again, revealing dark figures lining the walls, all gazes fixed on them with hollow eyes. They moved closer, merging into a cacophony of whispers that flooded their minds. "Leave, join us," the voices cooed, sweet yet sinister, promising comfort just outside the boundaries of pain and fear. Emily felt a tug in her heart, a desperate longing, as if they were family beckoning her home. Don't. Jason's voice snapped Emily back to reality, his grip tightening with urgency. These aren't friends, Em. They're lies. But Maya's cries pulled at her heartstrings. In that moment of heartbeat silence, Emily's heart raced, caught between her friend's plea and what they faced. Could she leave Maya behind? Emily! Maya screamed again, the desperation a knife to her chest. Don't let it! A shadow lunged at Tyler, a dark blur that slammed into him, sending him sprawling on the ground. No! Tyler! Emily screamed. The dark force surged, a greedy maw that would consume them all if they lingered any longer. Run! Jason shouted, his voice rising above the din, breaking the trance. In a split second of clarity, she decided. Grab Maya! Emily yelled, lunging toward her friend while Jason moved, pulling at the shadows that threatened to steal them. They reached for Maya, hands outstretched. Maya fought, clawing at the shadows that gripped her tightly. Just as Emily felt the cold grip releasing, something sharp pierced her wrists like ice latching on, and she fell, choking on a scream, her heart pounding furiously. No! Emily! Maya's voice cut through. As darkness swirled, Emily felt the threads tethering her to the world shred apart. She could see the hallway melting into nothing, the light flickering in and out. What was once hope darkened with despair. There it was, the inevitability of the choice, the slicing realization that sacrifice seemed the only way out. Help! Please! Emily begged, but the shadows roared back. And that flickering light, the only hint of safety, was fading fast. In the grip of darkness, the air thick with the taint of panic, one question clawed at their minds: could they outrun what they had awakened? Uncertain and terrified, they pressed on into the abyss, desperately seeking a way to unravel the nightmare that was consuming them all. But as Emily turned her head, she caught one final glimpse of Maya, a silhouette disappearing beneath the crushing weight of the dark tide. And for a split second, amidst the chaos, a realization settled heavily around them. This was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for their very souls. Would they ever emerge from this darkness, or would they join the whispers of despair, forever calling out for someone to save them? The shadows began to close in, and their last shred of hope dangled by a thread. Emily's heart raced. The world narrowed down to shadows, a suffocating blanket of darkness wrapping around them. Her breath came out in quick, sharp gasps as she wrestled against the grip of despair tightening around her throat. Panic twisted in her stomach. It was not just fear, it was raw, primal terror that clawed at her insides, urging her to run, to hide, to do something. Tyler! She screamed again, adrenaline fueling her words. The dim light from the hallway flickered on the walls like dying embers, teasing her vision of safety. Just moments ago, they were a team, a cohesive group. Now, Tyler had vanished into the chaos, as if the shadows were snatching him away, mouth wide open to consume him. Jason! She turned, desperation spilling over. But Jason's eyes were wider now, reflecting the flickering light as he faced the advancing darkness alone. What do we do? Keep moving! He shouted, voice strained and echoing through the swirling void. The shadows hissed back, the whispers becoming a roiling wave of sound, a cacophony of pleading calls and mocking laughter. Together! Emily cried, but each word felt heavy, burdened with doubt. It was as if the very darkness sought to drown their determination. She wanted to run, yet someone held her back. There came a thud. A solid, terrible sound behind her. She spun around and saw Maya struggling, shadows clawing at her, dragging her back into a swirling mass of despair. Maya! It tore from Emily's lips unbidden. She felt her heart fracture, an echo of betrayal mixed with the terrible weight of inevitability. The shadows throbbed, pulsing with malicious energy. Stay, join us. It was a melody, seductive and sinister, as if the darkness promised refuge in exchange for surrender. Maya's eyes blazed with fear, reflecting the same struggle clawing within Emily's chest. Don't listen, Maya! Fight! Emily shouted, every ounce of conviction dripping from her words. But the shadows tightened their grip, smothering Maya's fight with suffocating darkness. Like a dream turning on itself, Emily watched as her friend's spirit dimmed. Emily, help me! Maya's voice rose and fell like a broken whisper, lost beneath the grinding mass of terror. Jason hurled his arm forward, refusing to cower. I can't lose you too! Anguish lined his voice, but time was fleeting. The shadows surged, thick and demanding. Run! Jason urged, eyes darting with frenetic energy. No! I can't leave her! Emily screamed back, a million thoughts racing through her mind. The battle fought within, between love and survival. And then, midst this chaos, she locked eyes with Jason, a silent agreement passing between them in an instant. They would not abandon Maya to the abyss. Together! Jason cried again, and they both launched forward, their resolve igniting a spark amidst the consuming dark. But the shadows responded, an angry tempest swirling, clawing and grasping, trying to crush their spirits. Their bodies thrashed against the waves of despair, haunting whispers slithering into their thoughts. They were drowning, but not yet gone. With a final surge, Emily reached out toward Maya. Fingers brushed against each other, not quite there, and still so far. The space between them pulsed with dark energy, an insufferable barrier that neither could breach. Then a flash, bright and clashing against the dark, coursed through the hallway again. A figure emerged, real and twisted, lunging toward them. It was more than just shadows now, it fed off their fears, danced with their desperation. Emily's scream mingled with the cacophony. Let go of her! Tyler's voice sliced through as he reemerged, battered but furious. Did they have a chance? Would fighting the dark lead them deeper into its depths, or could it be their only way out? Jason's grip on Emily tightened. Now! He shouted, pulling her with every ounce of strength. The shadows writhed, roaring in fury as the light flared once more, illuminating the shapes threatening to swallow them. But then, from behind, a chilling sound erupted. You think you can escape? The chilling laughter echoed louder, mingling with their sobs of terror. It wasn't just a game anymore, it was a hunt, and they were the prey. Could they break free from the clutches of their own darkness before it consumed them whole? The question hung bitterly in the air as they dove deeper into the swirling abyss, yet the shadows awaited, and with every desperate pulse, the truth grew clearer: this was only the beginning. They plunged into the vortex of darkness, limbs thrashing, hearts pounding like war drums. Shadows clawed at their heels, whispering promises of despair wrapped in a velvety embrace. Emily's thoughts spiraled. Every second felt like an hour, and she could barely stand the weight of an unseen dread. Tyler! She shouted, her voice hoarse with desperation. He had been so close, yet now he felt like a fading memory, a ghost lost among the echoes of their screams. The ground beneath them shifted, a tidal wave of shadows undulating like a dark ocean. Jason stumbled, his foot slipping on unseen debris. Emily reached out, grabbing his arm, her grip tightening in fear. It's pulling us apart, he gasped, eyes wide with terror. Silence, deep and suffocating, hung for a moment like a heavy curtain, before the shadows erupted with tortured wails, clawing their way into their minds. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The sound was almost human. Fight it! Remember who we are! She tried to project strength, but inside, her terror threatened to sway her resolve. In response, the shadows surged, a black tide that seemed to breathe and pulse. It didn't merely want to trap them, it sought to break them. They stumbled forward through a maze of gloom, each step met with resistance, as if they were wading through thick tar. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from behind them. Maya! Tyler shouted, and in that moment, every ounce of hope shattered within Emily. No! We can't let it take her! Despair battled with determination, igniting fire in Emily's veins. She willed herself to move faster. They couldn't just abandon their friend. But the shadows thickened, morphing into grotesque shapes, mimicking her fears. She saw glimpses of horror-haunted faces, twisted forms that seemed to reach out, begging for release while dragging the living into their depths. The laughter returned, cruel and playful, echoing in mocking waves. "You think you can save her? You're all mine!" It wrapped itself around her, coaxing her to release her grip, to simply give up. "Stay together," Jason shouted, the urgency in his voice barely piercing the murk. Maya's voice echoed again, a distorted plea caught between dimensions. Emily's heart broke. "Emily, please!" "No!" With a surge of adrenaline, Emily lunged forward, ignoring Jason's desperate attempts to pull her back. "We're going to save her!" The darkness convulsed, a wall of despair rushing around her as Jason's grip faltered. She dove into it, feeling it wrap around her like icy fingers, the chilling air invading her lungs. Then, out of the corner of her eye, a glimmer, a flicker of light. Shining through the crack of shadows, it sparked dimly, but it ignited her hope. Oh, how she needed that light! "Emily!" "No!" Tyler's shout echoed behind her, full of frantic urgency, but she barely heard him. Her focus narrowed as she felt the warmth of that light reaching out, beckoning her to escape the cold, dark grasp. She reached out in desperation. "Keep moving!" she screamed, as another pulse of light flared. Together. Just at that moment, the shadows erupted in fury, twisting into monstrous forms that lunged towards them. Jason tore through the darkness, his eyes locked onto hers. She could see the fight reflected there, a shared understanding coursing between them. But a massive tendril, dark and insatiable, shot forward. Jason pushed Emily away, the shadow snatching him, yanking him into the abyss. Her heart shrieked with disbelief. "No!" The scream tore from her lips, raw and agonized. But that voice came again, soft yet haunting. "Emily, come, Jason!" Somehow, she couldn't let go. The shadows writhed, seeking to consume her. But if she reached for the light and before her eyes could adjust, the flicker extinguished, leaving them again in suffocating darkness. "Get to the light! Follow me!" she urged, pulling them both onward, away from the heart of despair, toward hope they couldn't see yet believed existed. Could they find their way out, or were they already too late? Then, the shadows hissed, closing in around them, threatening to part the world they fought to hold on to. Would they ever find freedom? Or was this the end of their fragile journey? The question hung heavy as their breaths mingled with darkness, a reminder that they were not yet free, and something was watching, waiting. What if the darkness knew them better than they knew themselves? The shadows lunged with feral fury, hunger etched in their twisted shapes, and Emily felt the air crackle around her as if charged with electricity. Hard racing, she ducked under a tendril that was closer than she expected, narrowly escaping its icy grip. "Keep moving!" she shouted again, panic making her voice sharp, but deep inside, the gnawing doubt twisted like a knife. Could they indeed find the light? Jason's face flickered in the darkness, his desperation a stark contrast to the shadows around them. "Emily! Where's Maya?" The weight of his question crushed her insides, filling her with rage and guilt. Could they really save her? "I don't know. We have to keep going." The laughter that haunted them swelled like a sick symphony, answering her with chilling glee. "She's in here with me forever." It slithered through the air, chilling Emily to the bone, rippling through her skin like 1,000 crawling insects. "Stop!" Tyler shouted, his voice hoarse as if pushed by the very shadows pressing in. "We can't split." But it was too late. The ground fissured in a sickening crack, yawning wide just as a shadow sprang forth, forcing them apart. Emily felt a sharp pull as Jason was tugged away, lost into the formless void. "Jason!" She screamed one last time, feeling like a junk doll tossed in the storm. Then silence. The echoes of his name dissipated into the horrible vastness, swallowed whole. Emily's breath hitched, her heart stumbling in its rhythm. A fog of fears descended, a spectral replay of each face she'd seen, each moment she wished hadn't happened. The shadows danced and toyed with her, taunting her failures. "Give in, Emily," the voices whispered, caressing her mind like a sick lullaby. "Let go." Join them, the mere suggestion sent a tremor through her, a roiling pit of despair making her feel small, invisible. But as her vision swirled with the darkness closing in, she spotted the glimmer again, a flicker of light emerging from the depths, vivid and warm. It softened the ravenous chill, and sanity rushed back in a heady wave. Together, she whispered as if saying it aloud would somehow make it happen. Rushing forward, she found herself drawn to the glow. It flickered harder, brighter. Maybe it was Maya, maybe they could find a way through. The thought flickered like the light itself, fragile yet pulsing with potential. Just then, the laughter morphed into shrieks, reverberating off the jagged edges of the void. You cannot escape the darkness. But Emily's rage ignited again. She sprinted toward the luminous escape, reaching her arm out as if it could bridge the gap between her and freedom. Her heart drummed against her ribs, each beat a battle cry against despair. The light welcomed her, enveloping her as she dove in, arms outstretched. Time stretched, the world warping as she flailed. She felt free before a sudden jerk pulled her back. No! No! She screamed, a sudden force dragging her back into the suffocating embrace of shadows. The warmth slipped through her fingers, and the light receded, dimming with each agonizing second. Emily, a voice croaked, barely audible over the chaos. It sent chills racing down her spine. Was it Jason? No, it wasn't he, his voice. Who's there? She gasped, her heart hammering harder against her chest. It's too late, the voice rasped, masked in agony. Darkness pulsed around her, clawing at her skin like a million pinpricks. The realization struck time was running out. She pushed back harder against the force, lining her will against the inexorable pull. But what if she was wrong? What if the darkness was right? What if Emily? The crushing weight of doubt was interrupted as an explosion of light emanated behind her, blinding the shadows, forcing them to retreat. She turned, squinting against the brightness, her breath hitching at the sight of familiar faces. Maya, Jason, and Tyler, all bloodied, all trembling, all alive. But the darkness stirred again, readying for a last assault. They were unbroken, yet her heart whispered, for how long? Would this be the moment they finally break free, or was it a trick of the light? As they stood together, the shadows shivered at their feet, an ocean of terror undulating, growing restless beneath their feet, hungering for their despair. What would become of them now? The air was thick with uncertainty, a haunting promise that something worse lay hidden, waiting just beyond the edge. A chill drained the warmth from the air, and Emily's breath formed ghostly clouds as they huddled close. The shadows flickered, coiling around them like serpents, ready to strike. Each flicker of light cast their faces into stark relief, painted with fear, uncertainty, and a semblance of hope that felt terrifyingly fragile. What do we do now? Maya asked, her voice trembling as she scanned the dark expanse swirling before them. The laughter returned, echoing off the jagged walls of their prison. We stick together, Jason said, his voice steadier than Emily felt. We find a way out. He looked at each one of them, his resolve bolstering their faltering spirits. But the shadows listened. They surged forward like waves drawn by a malevolent tide. Join us or perish, they hissed in a unified voice that reverberated within Emily's very bones. Emily felt heat rise in her chest, rage coiling tightly in her gut. We're not afraid of you, she shouted, but her voice quivered. Despite the bravado, memories of failures and faces lost surged through her mind. Faces she could never forget, the screams, the darkness. Together they whispered, and for a brief moment, the shadows shimmered with potential. But then, they surged again, a vortex of darkness threatening to wrench apart their unity. Move! Emily yelled, taking off deeper into the void, her feet pounding against the skeletal ground. Behind her, Maya and Tyler followed, their footsteps echoing with uncertainty. Jason lagged slightly, pausing to glance back, a mixture of fear and disbelief etched across his features. No! Emily shouted, spinning around. We can't stop. He caught up, breathing heavily. It's the only plan we have, he said, but his eyes betrayed the truth, he didn't believe it either. Emily forced herself to look ahead, focusing on the flickers of faint light dancing in the distance. What if this was all a trap? What if they were only leading themselves further into despair? Her chest tightened at the thought, but she pushed it back. They ran as the shadows twisted around them, reaching out like hungry claws. A sudden chill cut through the warmth of their mingled breaths, and a shadow lunged for Tyler. "No!" The cry burst from Emily's lips as she lunged forward. The shadow wrapped around Tyler's legs, dragging him backward, a look of horror on his face. "Help!" He clawed at the ground, fingers digging frantically into dirt and rock, but it wasn't enough. Maya screamed, reaching for him, but the shadows surrounded them like a storm. Emily felt panic close in. "Let him go!" Emily yelled, hurling every ounce of defiance she could muster into her voice. "He's ours!" Dark laughter swelled around them, drowning out her cries. The shadows tightened their grip on Tyler, and a chorus of whispers rose, filling the air with dread. "You cannot hold what you do not own. We have to let him go!" Maya cried, gasping as more shadows closed in. "No! We can't!" Emily simply refused to accept it. "We can save him!" She felt the pull of despair invade her heart, but she fought against it. "If we can pull him back, if we just believe," as if sensing their struggle, the shadows recoiled momentarily, hesitating at the tension in the air. The flickering lights grew brighter, illuminating the terror on each of their faces. "Then do it!" Jason urged, determination blazing in his eyes. Emily drew a breath, gathering every ounce of courage. Sucking in the feeling of dread mixed with hope, she lunged toward the darkness, reaching for Tyler. "Let him go! He's our friend!" Suddenly, a blinding light erupted from deep within the shadows, forcing them all to shield their eyes. The shadows reared back, annoyed, losing grip on Tyler as he fell to the ground, gasping for breath. "Run!" Jason shouted. But even as they took off, the shadows shrieked, thrashing violently at the intruding light. "This isn't over!" The wails echoed, vibrating through the very core of Emily's being. Terror surged through her. What had she just unleashed? They stumbled onward, pushing themselves forward, the shadows swirling menacingly behind. "What did we just do?" Maya gasped, dread creeping up her spine. Emily's heart pounded. The darkness may have lost one battle, but this was far from over. "We have to find the source of that light. If we don't, they'll come back for us, and next time, they might not let us go." The air thickened around them, a silence creeping back in as the ominous darkness loomed ahead. The pulse of fear shook Emily anew, whispering terrible promises and dark truths. What were the shadows really waiting for, and how long could they hold on to their fragile hope? They pressed onward, the silence around them heavy with dread. Each step echoed against the walls, a reminder of their vulnerability. Emily could feel the cold ground almost biting at her feet, sharp stones digging into her skin. "Where is the light?" she muttered, fear making her voice tremble. Maya, still shaken from Tyler's brush with shadow, looked like a ghost herself, pale, wide-eyed, and nearly lifeless. "Maybe we took a wrong turn," Tyler said, his breath coming in quick gasps. He stumbled but quickly regained his footing, glancing back as if expecting the dark to swallow them whole at any moment. Then Jason halted, causing Emily to collide into him. He had spotted something, a faint glimmer flickering in the distance through a narrow opening in the rock. "There!" He pointed, his face taut with urgency. "It could be the light. We need to move." But even as they ran, doubt clouded Emily's mind. What if it was another trap? What if they were being lured deeper into the chaos, away from safety? Torn between terror and the desperate need to escape, she pushed those thoughts aside. As they reached the opening, the light intensified, a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the oppressive gloom around them. It was a narrow cave, stretching far and giving off an unearthly luminescence. Emily felt its warmth on her skin, a reprieve from the icy grip of the shadows. "We go in," Jason said, his expression fierce. The flickering light beckoned them, but a nagging feeling brushed against the back of Emily's mind. Glancing at Maya and Tyler, Emily noticed their apprehension mirrored her own. "What if the shadows, what if they follow us inside?" Jason looked unconvinced. "We can't stay out here." We've already lost too much. With a reluctant nod, she stepped into the cave. Maya and Tyler followed, but fear weighed heavily on them. The light within pulsed softly, illuminating strange symbols etched into the walls, ancient runes that glimmered like stars. "What do you think they mean?" Maya whispered, tracing a finger over the closest symbol. Before Emily could answer, the shadows slipped in silently behind them, enveloping the entrance. The laughter returned, now sounding close and personal, each note filled with malice. "You thought you were safe, but we are everywhere." A shiver ran down Emily's spine. "No, no! We have to close it off!" she cried, adrenaline surging through her veins. They turned back, facing the dark hole, but it was no longer just a passage. It twisted like a hungry maw, shadows writhing like vipers. "Run deeper!" Jason shouted, looking around frantically. "We find a way to block them. Maybe these symbols can help." In the terrifying chaos, Emily's instincts kicked in. They stumbled forward into the glowing light, following the cave as it wound like a serpent, the air thick with palpable tension. With every step, the whispers rose. "You cannot escape, you belong to us." The cave thrust them into an expansive chamber, the light almost blinding. At its center stood a pedestal draped in luminescent cloth, glowing with an energy that pulsed in time with their racing hearts. "What is that?" Tyler breathed, eyes wide with awe and fear. Emily approached cautiously, her throat tightening. As she reached out to touch the pedestal's surface, a sudden flash of visions flooded her mind: darkness, betrayal, and faces twisted in pain. Then, the light flickered. "Quick!" Maya yelled, panic crackling in her voice as shadows surged forth, rushing toward them with unparalleled speed. If they didn't act soon, their only chance for survival would slip away into the darkness. "Cover yourselves with the cloth," Jason shouted as shadows billowed ominously at their backs. They lunged for the pedestal, desperate to hide from the encroaching terror. But as Emily's fingers skimmed the fabric, the shadows shrieked, the howls morphing into a cadence of laughter, a sound more chilling than the darkest night. What is going to happen? Emily thought, her heart beating steadily against the encroaching doom. Could this light truly be their salvation, or was it just a trap set to ensnare their souls? In that moment, the darkness lunged forward, and the blinding light changed, revealing horrifying truths. The shadows whispered again, "You sought the light, and now you shall know the truth." And with that, the ground beneath them began to shudder. What truth awaited them in that beckoning light? The ground trembled violently beneath their feet, sending ripples of fear coursing through the group. Emily barely steadied herself against the pedestal, gripping the glowing fabric tightly. The shadows advanced, their laughter morphing into a raucous storm, each echo a taunt nibbling at her resolve. "Stay close," Jason shouted as he hugged the edge of the pedestal, eyes darting to the darkness threatening to engulf them. Tyler and Maya clung to each other, faces pale, fear mirrored in their wide eyes. "We need to shield ourselves," Maya cried, panic slicing through her voice. "Quick!" Emily's heart raced as she wrapped herself in the cloth, an almost electric sensation flooding her veins, a stark contrast to the biting cold of the shadows moving toward them. The others followed suit, wrapping themselves in the luminescent embrace. In that second, the world shifted. A blinding light burst forth from the fabric like a sun breaking through a storm. The shadows screamed, a cacophony of sorrow echoing around the chamber. But Emily felt warmth, real warmth, bursting inside her chest. "We can do this!" she yelled, voice ringing out with newfound strength. "We're stronger together!" The glow pulsed, washing over the floor and walls, illuminating the grotesque figures creeping nearer. And with each heartbeat, the shadows recoiled, howling in anguish, as if the very light was burning them. "Who knew we could wield such power?" Tyler said, awe mingling with fear. But beneath the brightness, Emily could see sweat on his brow, the toll of the night weighing heavily on him. But the light flickered again, and Emily was hit with a trembling wave of realization. "It needs our belief. It needs us. We have to channel our fear into it," Jason shouted, voice ringing with the urgency of their escape. "Use it! Every ounce of what we have!" And as the shadows lunged once more, hungry and relentless, the four of them steeled themselves together. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, memories flooding back: Maya's laughter, Tyler's courage during the pizza debates, Jason's unwavering loyalty. Each memory formed a beacon in her mind, flickering hope, fanning the flames of the light. "Willingness to fight," she exclaimed, every word vibrant with conviction. "Our friendship will protect us." With their hands intertwined, they concentrated, pouring their hopes into the shimmering light, their joint belief transforming the very essence of the glow into something dynamic, alive. It swelled, pulsing with their essence, brightening with every shared fear they expelled. The room cracked with energy, and for a moment, the darkness seemed to slow, almost as if it were digesting the power pouring from them. "Together," Jason urged, and they chanted, voices rising higher, fueled by frantic determination. Words flowed: "We are not alone." And the shadows screeched louder, swirling as they were repelled by the light, helpless against the unity forged amongst the four friends. Suddenly, from beneath the pedestal, a surge erupted, a blazing force that screamed upward like a rocket piercing through clouds. The shadows battled against the bright beam, tearing at the light, misery striking them down. But Emily felt unstoppable. Just as she began to falter, the laughter of her friends surged through her, strength flowing into her every nerve, grounding her against the chaos. "We are not afraid," they shouted as one, words filling the air with a thunderous defiance. The explosion of light erupted, swirling, chasing the darkness back into retreat. "No! You can't!" the shadows wailed, their cries mingling with the wind as they were banished back, torn apart by the purity of their bond. And as fast as light swallowed the darkness, a void opened, a tunnel leading into a realm bathed in luminous hope. Each flicker seemed impossibly brighter, inviting, calling them forward. "We have to go!" Maya shouted, and without a second thought, they plunged into the light, arms linked together as they soared ahead, slipping away from the remnants of despair. The world faded and reformed, each heartbeat a lifeline yanking them back into reality. They landed on soft grass, the suburban night stretching before them alive with the buzz of crickets and the twinkle of stars. Gone was the clamoring chaos, the shadows of despair replaced with the warm glow of the moon. "What just happened?" Tyler gasped, panting, the weight of their experience still pressing onto him. Emily looked around, seeing familiar surroundings. The backyard looked unchanged. "We broke free. It's over." But her heart nagged, sensing that while they had escaped this nightmarish encounter, the safety waited just beyond those walls. Something inside her whispered, "Darkness does not rest." They joined in a tight embrace, tears mingling with laughter unspooling across the air. They had faced the darkest version of themselves and held strong. "Let us never forget this," Maya whispered, eyes glistening. A chill ran down Emily's spine at the thought of the shadows still lingering at the edge of existence, forever synonyms to their past, biding their time. But right now, they had triumphed. "This is a new beginning," Jason said, holding his chin up with resolve. They were alive together. As the laughter echoed into the night, Emily looked at her friends. They were forged anew. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." In this moment of silence, beneath the vast expanse of stars, they finally felt ready to reclaim their lives, ready to share their tales. But a whisper reached across the night, curling around them, far too familiar. "You can't escape me, not yet." And deep within, they all knew this fight, it was far from over. Now is the moment. If you want to join us for more thrilling stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately, so you don't miss the next exclusive tales. Smash that like button now to show your support and feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this experience with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything. Let us keep this journey alive together.